It is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That is a little-known band that, I guess it's not that little known, but it's little known to a lot of people. That is the band Irate with a tune called Nothing.
Oh, wow.
And
awesome.
And on the phone is a guy that I'm not sure if you're irate or not. You really don't have a lot of reason to be, but it's the one and only Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, legendary bassist, the one and only Jason Newsted. Jason, how are you, man?
Chris, what's happening? Thanks for having me, man.
Sure.
That's amazing you played that song. I haven't heard that in forever. That's fantastic, for real.
Well,
really cool.
Jason, I'm sure you probably don't remember, but you and I have had a lot of interaction over the years, mostly in the Metallica days. Everywhere from the warm-up gig that you guys played, I believe it was at the Warfield at the for Day on the Green 91.
Wow.
All the way through, you gave me my biggest thrill ever as a music person by actually inviting me up onto your stage in 1998 during Soundcheck.
Wow.
So, and you also busted my balls better than anybody ever did, and I want to tell you this story and see if you even remember it. Same gig, 98 in Cleveland. I was backstage hanging out with the Corrosion and Conformity guys. Okay. And there was obviously you and the Metallica guys are there, and some of the COC guys, and your road guys and whatnot are there. And for whatever reason, I took a peek over, and you guys had the table set up with the beers and the drinks and the food and whatnot. And you just came right over to me, and you caught me like glancing at the table, and you're like, "Dude, go ahead, have a beer or whatever." So I was like, "All right," and I walk over to the table, and I go to grab a beer. And immediately Hetfield comes right up behind me. He's like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing taking our beers?" And I was like, Jason said, and immediately Hetfield's like, "Jason doesn't run this table. I run this table." And, he's like yelling at me. And I was like panicking, dude. And then all of a sudden you came over just pointing at me laughing, and then Hetfield broke into busting my balls as well. It was one of the funnest moments ever, dude.
Because we set you up. Yeah, that was cool.
Totally good stuff, man. Fun stuff.
Very good, man. Very good. I'm glad you got that story to tell. That's awesome, man.
Well, dude, obviously you have many, many stories to tell. Old stories, new stories. I guess the good place to start is with the obvious, man. Where has Jason Newsted been? You just you were obviously in the biggest band in the world, and then you disappeared to the level of getting rid of a website and hiding. So
yeah, for sure. There was a lot of crazy peaks and valleys in the last 12 years. And just so you know, Chris, since we do have a history together, this is the 12 years today is when I called the meeting with Metallica.
Wow.
So we got, a lot has happened in those 12 years. And, I may not have been in the spotlight like it is in a big band like that, where everybody knows your every move and the name of your cat and all that stuff. It gets a little crazy, But I really stayed very busy in my own world for every minute of this last 12 years. I'll do a brief thing, but just so everybody can kind of get caught up with where I'm at. As soon as I left the band, I already had Echo Brain going at that point, so we finished our record right away, recorded a record, released a record, went on tour, and did all that thing. I was, the first 6 months, I'll back up a little, the first 6 months after I left the band was pretty traumatic. I was still really reeling from things and just trying to figure out which direction I was going to go. But got the Echo Brain thing going, kind of found my solace in that, and very, very proud of that record. It's very true music and very musical music, and such a departure for me from the heavy thud stuff. It was a refreshing cleanser that absolutely had to happen for my life to continue. And so we did that thing, and about a month after I wrapped up the Echo Brain tour and all that, I joined Voivod, and then I toured with them and made records. We ended up making 3 records total, and did a few tours. And then in 2003, I played. In between all that, I was in Voivod and Ozzy at the same point in 2003. That summer, went out with Ozzy on Ozfest, did 62 shows in 60 days because I was playing with both bands. 2004, I had my first shoulder surgery on my right shoulder. I had a complete bicep tear and a rotator cuff tear. It was very, very severe. Wow. It took a long, long time to come back from that. And then I had 3 surgeries from 2004 to 2008, right shoulder, left shoulder, right shoulder, back and forth. So I was one-armed for quite a bit of time. For about 3 years, I was one-armed back and forth and addicted to painkillers. I started painting because I really didn't, I rigged up little rigs where I could slide a Parker thin guitar in between my sling and my stomach to keep playing my instrument, but it wasn't anything where I could bounce around or be myself or be my real monster or anything like that. So kept painting and did a bunch of paintings, and that got kind of famous, and I did art shows, and I still sell big paintings for thousands of dollars right to this day. I've done between 800 and 1,100 pieces in that time that I was down. I learned to be ambidextrous. I can use both hands equally now because of the necessity of that. And all the paintings are done with both hands, and of course it's helped me play my instruments better, obviously. So that all came around 2008. 2006, I went and did the Supernova show on CBS and made a whole bunch of dough. Learned a lot about what not to do with all the Hollywood hubbub flying around me. I think I finished the last Voivod record with those guys. 2009 was a release on that. And then I started doing Papa Wheelie shows, and we went out and took that out and opened for Caius and the Sword and Anvil and some different stuff. Then we did the Hall of Fame with Metallica, did the, that's not quite chronological, but I did it anyway, and then started playing with this band, wrote these songs in August of last year, and now here we are 6 months later, and you got this music in your lap, and the spear is sharpened and ready to go crush.
Sure. Well,
so I've been very busy, just not necessarily in the limelight,
Right. Is that good or bad? I mean, and the reason I ask that is because obviously you spent 20 years in as big of a limelight as there is. I mean, literally Metallica in your era became as big historically as anybody you want to point to. Beatles, Stones, whoever. Metallica in your era was easily that big. Mm-hmm. Then obviously you jump out of the limelight. That's got to be major culture shock for you.
Yeah, it was good, but it was exactly what needed to happen. I climbed the tallest metal mountain with those guys. We had incredible peaks and valleys, but I was there for the greatest peaks. And when we got to the top of the tippity top of the metal mountain, that one, I stepped off. And that's where I remained. I stepped off at the top, and I still am at the top. That's where I'm coming from with this record. It's a fresh start, but I don't have to start at the start anymore, right, as that were, because of all, like you mentioning, all the hard work I've done for 30 years, taking my music to the people and all that stuff. I was a part of a fantastic outfit for 15 years and played a pretty significant role. I think everybody had their own roles to make that thing be as big as you're speaking of right now, and I played mine pretty well. Apparently, from the feedback of the people, I did something right.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, Jason, obviously you have a new project, just self-titled more or less, or just called Newsted. The name of the release is called Metal, and without any question, from the first notes of Soldier Head all the way through, it's very clear that the metal hasn't left you at all now, has it?
No, man, it's always there. No matter what kind of music I play with different people through time, whether it's Echo Brain or Sepultura, Government Mule, DJ Shadow, I mean, so many different bands, so many different styles of music through time. It's made me a better, well-rounded player. And stepping back just a second to what we were talking about, now that the dust has settled 12 years later, look at what we've got before us now. Metallica is a giant, powerful thing, as strong as they ever were, still dominating the universe. Most importantly, James is healthier than he ever was, clear-eyed and strong and sober, happy with his family. I mean, that's the very most important thing. And then I have a band that I'm very, very happy about and excited. I feel like a kid with this again. I'm really, it's metal because that's what I am. It's old school metal. That's all I can be. I went for this, doing what I do best. The most hours on my instruments have been spent playing this type of music. And the title is very appropriate. I want to make sure this is a global thing, like we're talking about. We've been working for a long, long time to take the music around the world. I have to address it as a global thing. If you have spent any time in metal circles in the last 30 years, you know what the word Newsted means. You know what the word metal is. You put those two together, and there's no question or confusion about what you're going to get.
Sure. Now, Jason, obviously there's going to be 1,000,005 musicians that want to work with you just for the fact of just what you said. Your name means, everything in the world of metal. So how do you not only land with the guys that you've landed to form this project, but how do you weed through the people that are just looking for their own little, attention piece based solely off of your legacy?
You pretty much answered your own self right there. As soon as I recognize any kind of thing like that, it's a very short-lived thing if people are trying to ride any of my tails, I don't ride on my laurels like that. You're as good as your next record type of thing, and you're hearing my next record right now. Did some great records in the past, but I still got it in me. And the guys that I have with me now are very genuine, hardworking, disciplined people who have paid their dues in the past, but not really ever met the successes they deserved. And now I'm letting them taste that. These are cats that I've known for a long, long time. Jesus Mendez is our drummer, and I've known him for working on 15 years now. He was with the Metallica camp in the 90s as a local California road guy at the headquarters, and then we started jamming together about 10 or 11 years ago in the Chop House, making our kind of improvisational slabs, and we've played with different styles too, Jesse and I, with different people, but mostly we always keep it metal. He's the double bass Motorhead kind of guy, so that works for me plenty. And then Jesse Farnsworth, who is really our secret weapon. He plays guitars, rhythm lead, plays some bass, does background vocals. He's a very accomplished musician on his own. He has his own records where he fronts a band and sings and writes all the songs. So he's a better guitar player than me by far, and all that kind of thing. So they've got 10 years under their belt together as a rhythm section and as players, playing in different bands, but knowing each other. Nothing can replace that time together. And so this trio's been together for 5 years, and then we've had our nose to the stone with this serious approach to these new songs since August of last year. And I could have put together a supergroup, I've been talking to people about this week. I actually have my supergroup picked, and maybe someday I still will do that kind of thing, one that works out better for other people or something. But at this point, on this one, it has to be a couple people that I really trust, that I get along with, that I like to have dinner with and have beers with, and all those kind of things, that support me. They believe in my vision, and they don't come in like, oh, we're going to be famous now because we're Jason, blah, blah. We've been friends for a long, long time, and I don't present myself like that to my friends, and they don't come at me like that. We know what's happened. We know what we've accomplished and all that. It's something to be prideful of. They're proud of me for what I did. I'm proud of them for what they've done, and now we're rocking this together. But it is a thing where I just have a lot of confidence in these people because I've seen how hard they will work with me and the stamina they have when the chips are down. So it really comes down to that. You couldn't. I wouldn't want to deal with the egos of a supergroup right now. People coming in and their accomplishments and look, I did this and I did that, and there's the way our band used to do it and blah, blah, blah like that. Mm-hmm. And then not have those hours together that we're speaking of. Certainly the music could be good because people were good on their instruments and they've experienced, but not in the same way. These guys are coming in egoless and we're all after the same thing. It's kind of a collective quest here that's very true,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, listening to metal, one of the things that comes through very quickly to anybody that's followed your career and really followed your whole career, not just the big name stuff, mm-hmm. but this is not a lot of the reviews that I've read online are people saying how this is a departure for what you've done. And to me personally, I don't think it's a departure at all. If you look at you've done so many different projects that people don't know about, but if you've listened to, is really right in the ballpark of where metal is, especially songs like King of the Underground and King of the Underdogs and Soldier Head, very much in line with some of the stuff that you did, post Metallica or even during Metallica, but that was not the big name stuff. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like this is a completely new sort of element for you?
Well, it's a departure certainly from some of the other styles of Echo Rain and all those things, but it is what I've always done. It's the truest thing, like we talked about before. It's what I've always done best. It's what I've done the most of. So it's absolutely what's supposed to happen. And as far as a departure, it is in the way that I'm assuming a bunch of new roles. Okay. I'm playing 6-string guitar. I played all the rhythms on this album, all the rhythm guitars on this album. But as far as the live thing, I'm presenting myself as the front man, lead vocals, playing guitar, and playing bass. We take it out as a 4-piece live, and we switch instruments on stage. So I'm playing bass and guitar at different times, but always doing lead vocal. All of that is new territory for me. I can stand with my bass, and I'm not afraid to play with anybody. You put anybody on the stage or in the room with me, I will figure out how to play the bass line with them, whether I can speak their language or not. Right. That kind of thing. But with the guitar, I've only got a few years on it, and I just know a couple chords on that thing, and I just find those chords and I play the crap out of them. That's just what I do. So it's just very raw and almost primitive in a way as far as the guitar playing goes. So that's all uncharted territory for me, and especially taking out and playing in front of people. You know, I did 6 or 8 or 10 Papa Wheelie shows where I laid down the slabs of those simple chords and real sloppy improv stuff where we know the song's going to start this way and end that way, but we don't really know what's going to happen in the middle. So that was my first experience with that, but taking it to the serious thing where everything is absolutely composed and arranged, but I'm up there with the guitar, it's some different territory.
Sure. Now, Jason, the first tune that most people have heard is Soldier Head, and it's a pretty loud statement for you, not only that you're back, but it's also very different in the fact that it is very, modern world and actually, socially conscious, which I don't want to say it's the first time you've ever done that, but it's the first presentation of, looking out at the world and making somewhat of a statement, even though it just seems like it's more of a statement of like solidarity with the soldiers. Mm-hmm. Was that purposeful, or is that just where you are as a guy now versus, the old days where it was like only about everything is metal and metal and metal?
Mm-hmm. It's been percolating like this for a long time, and then as I went and played with all the different people and had the experiences I've had, I've been able to formulate this player, musician, songwriter that I am now, but it took this long for me to be ready for it and it to be ready for me. I had some great experiences of being around, the best players that we know of. Okay, Hetfield, there's no one. That's it. You don't go higher than that as far as actual capacity and talent to play rhythm guitar and still sing a straight vocal line and that kind of thing. That no one can do that like him.
Right.
Okay, that's it. And I spent 15 years with that. It was Lars and Kirk in that dressing room and James and Jason in that dressing room, and we bros for a long time, and I took that in. I learned from him all the time. So that was a great experience that's starting to, I'm getting the fruit of that now. And then Zach Wilde, hello.
Yep.
Warren Haynes, hello. There's just some certain things that when you hang around with people, Matt Apst on drums, Igor Cavalier on drums, Andreas Kisser, come on, man. I got to hang around with Devin Townsend. I got to hang around with these people and have them teach me whether they knew they were doing it or not. And now all these years have gone by, and I put this out. I've been writing lyrics since I was a little kid, man. Right. I got my first guitar when I was 9, and I started writing stuff on paper all the way back then. So here we are 40 years later, and I've come to some lyrics that I'm really proud to put out to people. And it took that long. I've been writing lyrics the whole time. And so being able to express myself on what I see out there and get it across to people where they can, it is a commentary on what's happening in our world. I learned that from Snake. Snake of Voivod is the very best word weaver in our business.
Okay.
It's his second language, and because of that, it gives him some type of advantage to cut out all the fodder words and only use words that mean something. And that's what I got from him, and so that's what you hear now with this is just the regurgitation of all the experiences I've had and how much Motorhead and Black Sabbath I've listened to, and then all of my buddies, playing all our jams. This is what you get now. So the lyrics, I'm more excited about people seeing the lyrics than hearing the music, actually, in some of the things here. And it's just been a long time coming. This is the first time that I sat down. I sat down with a GarageBand on the iPad, okay, and I wrote all of the songs, all of the instruments. I have a drum machine on the drums, but I mean all the instruments, and then I burned the stuff and played it for Jesse and Jesse, and they went and learned it and brought it back and put their spin on it to make what we have now. But this first time I ever did full compositions, top to bottom, lyrics and everything. Flotsam, I used to do some stuff, but I wrote the thing on bass, all the songs on bass, and the guitars would come on, and we kind of make a song like that as a team. But this one is very different in the way that it is all my baby from top to bottom. And that's why I guess appropriately that it's named Newsted, and that I never really thought I'd put my name on something because I can always come with cool band names, but on this one it's appropriate because of what I just explained.
And is that the direction you see Newsted, the band, being in the future? Is always your complete writing with the guys playing, or do you see it developing into collaborative efforts where you're all in a room together writing material?
It's going to be collaborative, absolutely, and this is collaborative too because the songs would not have the color and the wonderment and the awesomeness that they. What my new word for today, the rawesomeness that they do. If these guys weren't great songwriters and musicians as it is. So the next ones from here on out will be all team effort from the get-go. Like I said before, these guys have written their own albums top to bottom already. they're capable of it for sure. This is the way this one happened. Just in a brief little thing for you. I mean, my very first thing when I ran down my chronological last 10 years, but then the last 14 or 16 months, I finished up those Papa Wheelie shows like I explained. I kind of got bit by the bug with that, just in a very little way because we were just doing little clubs and stuff. But it was very exciting, and I started feeling that feeling again. Right within, for like a week when we finished the Kai show, Lars called and asked me to go to that Fillmore thing, and I think you've probably read about it by now. I've been talking about it for about a week or so or whatever, but that was absolutely the thing that made me want to do this again and made me go and write those songs and made me chase it again. The reaction from the fans was such an incredibly beautiful thing. I mean, it really just pulled me back in, and that's why I am doing this now. This is for the fans because of the fans' response. And because I want to do it, I want to share it with them. So once we got that Fillmore thing done, I was just riding high coming out of there, man, feeling very victorious and strong and stuff. Got together with the Flotsam guys at the top of 2012, and the original band got together in Phoenix for 2 different weekends in January and February 2012. And we all stood in the same old practice place from 25 years ago and looked at each other and go, "Man, we're alive! Can you believe this crap?" and then we played Doomsday. The original band together, and recorded everything, and it was just rehearsals, but so we could say we did. It was the 30th anniversary of Flotsam at that time. 25th anniversary of Doomsday was happening right in those months, and it was very exciting to see the guys again, and we rocked it. But I was looking for my options. I had been bit by the bug, and I was starting to see what I was going to do. I was going to take some metal out to the people. I knew that. How was I going to do it? In what form? And so I got with the Flotsam guys, and it didn't really show the potential that I wanted it to show. It was wonderful, awesome, fast, and I kind of got taken aback forgetting how powerful and fast that band really was.
All right.
Very well practiced. I used to get so crazy about rehearsal discipline and all that thing, and they carried it on even after I left the band. So they're a very well practiced band, and to remember all those parts that kind of relearn everything. I'd forgotten what I'd written, when I was 19 years old, and I go, who in the heck thought all this stuff, Pretty crazy to go back and learn it, but it was a wonderful time, but it wasn't going to be what I was going to put my effort and energy into. So when I came back from that, I started getting serious with Jesse and Jesse here, and we talked to each other and said, I said, you guys, if I decide to do this, are you with me, man? You ready to sacrifice everything and go rock some shit? And they're like, for sure, dude. So we practiced it a little while, got it together, and then, like I said, August of last year, I got down to it, wrote the songs, and then here we are now. So it was really a seed planted by the fans, worldwide fans of Metallica, to call me back into the circle.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about the Fillmore real quick, as well as the Rock Hall, where you played with Metallica as well, for the first time in a long time. How did that feel? And I hate to ask a stupid how does that feel question, but how does that feel to go into a situation where it's completely different now? I mean, you don't have your own handler anymore within the Metallica camp. You're kind of the outsider, and Robert's the insider. But
you're the underdog.
Exactly. but you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's not like stepping back into Metallica. It's stepping on stage with those guys.
It was, though. It really was. I didn't take all the politics in there with me. It was stepping back into Metallica. I like the thing where the kid puts on the YouTube, this ain't Metallica featuring Newsted, this is Metallica featuring Robert.
Right.
I like that comment because for those songs, for those moments, that's what it was. And it was very much getting back on the bike. I don't have any inkling about doing anything permanent or anything future with those guys. I'll jam with them anytime.
Okay.
Man, let me know what time you want to be there, what time you want me to do. I'll jam with you, man. But any kind of serious, anything like that, stepping back into it, that's not really in the cards, man. I mean, if they were in some kind of real fix and they asked me, which I don't think they would anyway, but if they did, I'd help them out. But that's just hypothetical crap that ain't never going to happen. So when we do the 40th anniversary and they want to rock, I'll still pick the fastest songs, man. I'm good to go. So that's, it was like riding a bike, dude. I know it's an old adage and kind of cliche or whatever, but it really was. As soon as when I went to learn those songs, I get freshed up on those 14 songs I was going to play with those guys. They just came back like that, dude. Just came back. All I had to do was go back into that gray matter, find that little compartment, open up that portal, go in there, and there's Creeping Death, and there's all them songs. Boom, just like that. Didn't have to think about it. My muscle memory came up, and bam, 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 bam. There we go. Black and Battery, beep, 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 beep.
Right.
Just like nothing. Done those things so many thousands of times in front of people that it just came back. So stepping into it, strong, powerful, victorious feeling, and even better, when I got done with it and the fans are chanting my name and their faces are all lit up, and I walk off and I give them the medal sign, and then I come home and hang out with my animals and, with my wife, and at home nice and warm, and the next day get together in a shop house and jam with my boys and do whatever the heck I want whenever I want.
Right.
So it's beautiful, man. Really, really beautiful. It was not apprehensive. It was not weird. Everybody welcomed me with open arms. The whole camp was there. Metallica's had the same people working for them for decades. So to see all my family and my brothers and all that stuff, fantastic, man. Only positive. Sure.
Excellent. Let me ask you a hard one, Jason. It's one I'm assuming you've heard before, but I've never actually seen you address it. There's two camps of fans for Metallica, and they all are centered on exactly the moment, basically, when you joined the band, which is, there's the fans that absolutely will say Jason Newsted was the metal in Metallica for those 15, 16 years. There's also that camp that will say Metallica went from being the best metal band in the world to sucking when Jason Newsted joined the band.
Wow, I haven't heard that. Okay.
Dude, I'm telling you, as somebody that is a Metallica fan, loves everything, one of the few that will actually go out there and sing the praises of Load and Reload and, all those albums, that the hardcores hate that stuff. They just do. And,
that's great.
But how do you address like the hardcores that only want Kill 'Em All and, Ride the Lightning and, First Three versus those that are just as happy with Black Album and, basically from when you joined through S&M?
It's pretty funny now that I hear you say it and I'm kind of calculating all this. Okay, I'm one of those that only likes the first three albums and doesn't like the band as much after Cliff died. Okay. So there you go. I'm on that camp.
Okay.
I'm proud of the records I made with those guys, and they're cool for what they are and everything. That's not my main concern with that stuff. I know that when I played live in front of people, I played like I was never going to get to play again, and I crushed every fucker in front of me. Right. I know that. And so that's what's important to me. I've always been that about taking it to the people. That is really the priority of it all. We know that one man's fate is another man's destiny. Cliff's fate was my destiny, and that's just the way it worked out. It's sad that people are so small-minded about not just appreciating artistry and also looking at the situation in a human manner. Mm-hmm. I rescued them and they rescued me when I joined and when I left.
Okay.
I rescued them again and they rescued me again. I was addicted to painkillers. James was drunk as hell. Everybody it was all a mess. Divorces and having first babies and all kinds of ugly, crazy things that brought our separation, as it were, our divorce, as it were, But there's, so many factors that people don't realize within the thing. Cliff died.
Right.
Did you want Metallica to stop?
Right.
Did you just want them to stop? You think that those people with that attitude and that talent are just going to stop? Everybody's got their opinions, and I am proud of them for having them. If you stood there like a freaking doormat, then I'm not really with it. I want you to be you. Stick to your opinions, be true to you. So if you dig like I dig, the Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master Puppets, that's us right arm. But don't disrespect people that kick ass.
Right.
And that have given so many millions of people joy around the world, way more joy than sadness. This is a big, big deal in our world, that we were ambassadors of this music and still continue to be, and take around this American music to the world and show a lot of people that don't really think much of us as Americans, show them that we can rock and we're not so bad.
Right.
People need to look in the depth of things and see what it's all about, The liking Metallica then, liking Metallica now, whatever, all that. Peace, man. There's room for everybody. There's great bands, new bands that are our spawn, Mastodon, The Sword, and all that kind of stuff. Go dig them, man. If you don't dig the newer Metallica piece, good for you. Carry on. Go listen to Emperor, whatever.
Right.
Okay? You know, there's just so much water under the bridge, 30-year career. We're all in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we're still standing tall and fit and everything. Come on, man. Who else can say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
true.
everybody can have their opinion, but any negativity to me is basically bullshit. It's unnecessary.
Right. I hear you, man. Let me ask you one last Metallica question, and then we'll wrap up with a couple fun things.
Good, thank you.
Some Kind of Monster. Were you happy, disappointed? I don't know. Outside looking in, seemed unnecessary, and it seemed to paint you in somewhat of a bad light as like the reason the band fell apart. That's again outside. That's my own personal, just the way that the video and whatnot, and it almost seemed like they took band business and put it out in public in a way. There was a lot of bad shit going on with all of you guys, and it just seems like maybe that should have been left, behind the scenes. I
agree with that. I have always been quite a reclusive person. I have always been accessible to fans, my rapport with the fans and all that. That's what I've lived on as my fuel. And as I rekindle it now on the social media with all these people and everything, it's why I do this, man. It's with that wonderful part of it. You know what I mean? I don't. Go ahead. Tell me. Ask me again, will you please, so I can get my answer what I want.
Well, the question really is just: do you wish, more or less? I guess my question is: do you wish that period of time had not been turned into a public display of you guys' disjointedness at the time, which led you leaving the band?
Yeah, and I obviously was out of the band at that point, and I had no more say in the decision making or anything. And since I do keep things pretty personal. Private, to do that like that and expose yourself in those ways, I did not agree with that. But that, like I say, that wasn't my decision. I was long gone by then. So, I think there was some pretty unsavory moments in there. I've always tried to maintain the high road in this whole thing, and I will still.
Sure.
I'll never forget that Metallica gave me my chance to be what I am and to have my career and to be talking to you now about my new music, all that stuff. But yeah, some of those decisions that were made about exposing your inner workings like that, I think it was detrimental. It doesn't make a lot of sense considering what kind of band we were. We were always able to solve all of the issues within our own camp, dude. We were a pretty tough gang for a long, long time. We dominated the world, just us four. And so, doing those kind of things and showing those weaknesses like that, it is not necessary. That's the word really. It really isn't necessary for people to know that kind of stuff. And the disrespect they showed to me and those things and all that, that's so long ago. And, yeah, it got under my skin a little bit when I first saw it. And I go, why are you guys doing that? I don't understand what I've done to deserve that thing. I was always the first guy in, last guy out. I worked very hard for the band. I never put anything before the band. It was always my first priority. And, I mean, I missed my... Ooh, getting a little touchy here. Let's just say I missed some pretty important things. Things like laying very close friends and family members to rest and different important things where I really should have been a part of it, but instead I would go and do an interview or go and do a photo session or carry a master tape across the country because nobody else wanted to do it. Just get Jason to do it, these kind of things. I always put the band first, so being them guys forgetting about that fast, I don't know if they were just trying to lash out to get back at me or whatever in a collective. There is a thing within a group or a band or people like that. Whenever the one person isn't there to defend themselves, everybody else gangs up on them. I think that's a very common thing within teams and all that stuff. So the one thing that I think people maybe don't realize unless they are in groups or they have a good company that they're working with or something like that, there has to be a pressure valve in something that's successful. And especially when there's so much male ego stuff going on, there has to be a diffuser. There has to be a pressure valve. I was that pressure valve, and I don't know if they have one anymore.
Okay.
So that was really part of the thing that, made me what I was as far as the role that I assumed in that band. When they did push me out there in front to do some of those things that maybe everybody else didn't want to do. Little did they know that it would build the great character in me that I have now, the people person skills and the emotional capacity and all that stuff. I didn't like it then, but as I look back at it now, I wouldn't change a thing because it built me to where I am now.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I got to go for this other interview, so what you got?
All right, well, two real quick. How has Lemmy influenced your career?
Lemmy made it okay for me to play with a pick and through a guitar amplifier with my bass. You know, he made it okay. I used to get all kinds of crap for it, and he made it okay, man.
All right, awesome. And last one, why don't you take us out with a song from the new record and tell us a quick story about it? Okay,
so we'll go back to Soldier Head because that really is the one that I want to be the spearhead for this whole thing. We got a video coming out next week of it so everybody can see and feel what the band's all about. It's very representational, one more rawesomeness in the video. And this song is old school metal at its finest, and it's my tip of the hat to our military service personnel around the world that keep us safe and keep us protected and enable us to play our music as loud as we want to. Soldier Head from Newsted and the Metal EP.
All right, let's check it out right now. It is Soldier Head, it is Newsted right here on your Classic Metal Show.